turn the time over to Amy Joy Fielding, and as you know, we did a presentation last month on the protocols of the adversarial resistance. And so she's going to talk about her other book today. And do you have books to sell if anybody needs books? Or
yeah.
Okay. Great.
And you can always hang up. There's one book that I let people out. Okay.
Okay, and I will let you introduce yourself and your guest. So I'll turn the time over to you. Thank you.
Okay. The book last time, I'll just shoot this out. There was a paper written up on it, and you guys can get that on through email, but it was way important. In fact, it's my favorite book, Protocols of the Adversarial. So it's not written, it's a country cowboy that wrote it, horse guy. So, but the truth and principles in it are what I feel like can bind Satan in our families in the last days. If we understand this, I just saw a screen, and across that string it said game over for him. So when we learn that, and there's another book that I should have brought, but I can bring it down. But it's for children, young kids, to be able to use the tools that are simplified and be able to use them to find that in themselves and bind it, and recognizing where that is. But do you want to say a little bit about this book? I'll tell you about Jeremy. When they pop up, I'll show you some stuff. But this is a friend, Jeremy, and I'll tell you how we got to know each other. But go ahead, share.
I think one of the most important things we can do in this life is figure out who we're up against. So if you guys listen to anything with Trump or any of the media and stuff like that, they've been talking a lot about the art of war, the book, The Art of War. And the art of war really is about coming to understand your enemy. If you know everything about the team you're going up against, everything about it, then you have an advantage, right? Because you can recognize what they're going to do, you can stop them, you can trip them, you can do whatever you need to do. I think one of the most overlooked things that we teach in any religion, in our family, in our homes, is that Satan exists, and this is what he's trying to do and how he acts. So in this book, it teaches you how to recognize what he's doing. It teaches you how to recognize things that are not yours, that come from him, and how you can overcome them. But the key to it is once you recognize what it is he's trying to do, that those emotions, those feelings, or those actions aren't your idea, they're not coming from you, then you have the power over him to stop that from happening. So a lot of what's in this book, the adversary, or the protocols of adversarial resistance, is that teaching you how to understand what he's doing and how that affects you in your life.
You want to share?
Sure. And then also it gives you, the protocols that Dennis came up with through hypnotherapy to combat the adversary.
And last time I showed a picture of Dennis and told a little bit about him, but somebody that I've had the privilege of working with. You want to grab one more chair? Grab one more. You take that and I'll take another one. We'll get higher chairs. So, yeah, we're going to have that one. So, this is just last weekend. We got home from Egypt. How long ago, guys?
10 days.
10 days ago. Yeah. And then I had an ear issue on the plane, some sinus stuff, and it was really painful, but I finally woke up and went to this wedding. My child got married. So these are my two missionaries that are out, and we had them show up at the temple for pictures.
Cute.
These are two of my granddaughters and then two of my grandsons. So just fun. And this is my whole J team right over there. That are there. And then this is the Jay-Z team.
That's me and my son, Zachary.
Yeah, he has a son, Zachary.
What's the J and the JZ mean?
J is Jeffrey, Jamie, Jesse, Josie, Jackie, Justin, my J team, and then this is Jer and Zach on this side. So it's been, a year and a half ago? I prayed. I went through some stuff. So how I met Dennis is some things happened, and I got myself in a I found myself in a situation where I even was at a women's shelter. And I was like, I've been a counselor, I've tried to help women, I've helped women and men, and for 20 years, and then all of a sudden I get to witness this other side of life, like, wow, how did this happen, these circumstances. But through that whole thing, I was just a witness. I never chose depression, I never chose any of that. I get to see what this is like for women that go through this experience. So I ended up in Rupert, I was in the women's shelter. The women's shelter was like horrible, so it actually gave me an opportunity to see what they were going through and how I can improve their situation for women that end up there. So at that time, it was so much that even a blessing said that Satan will try to take you out, and you will be wounded, but Christ will win in the last days. And so I'd done a lot of stuff to help children with pornography, not with pornography, but to protect children from predators, pornography, all that type of stuff, to make awareness of how that intimacy has been degraded and counterfeited and presented in a way that's not healthy for us in our development. So worked with the ICAT team, started Women for Decency, Stand for Decency, a bunch of stuff, did rallies, Dr. Laura show, and just this young mom from the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, how can I do this? You know, what am I doing? How come I'm here? And just what it took to have the blessing saying, if you just open your mouth and you're willing, Heavenly Mother will be there to support you. And I didn't realize how much. And so I even spoke at the Attorney General's of the United States, was asked to come back and present. And I was like, what am I doing here? You know, type of thing. And God said, you're my daughter, and that's enough. That's the only qualification we need to do his work. And so I presented, and after it was done, like, someone that knew me is like, I can't believe that was you. I go, when you're willing, he can make you be whatever you want to be. So I had told you guys last time when I came, I prayed about who are we presenting to, and I felt God's love. Not only that, he told me that I was with the giants, intellectual and spiritual. So I was so excited to come, and now to come back. But at that time I was going through that, I prayed that I needed help. Like, I got myself in a situation where, like, I really need some help, a lot of ways. And this man shows up at my door the morning I prayed, because I'm just one of those ladies, I can hold it together and do anything. I raised 6 kids, raised on a ranch, you just do it, you buck up. And I was like, really, I'm pretty down, I need some help. And so I just asked God for help. I remember asking God for help when I had my little kids, 3 under 1, 3 under 3, and just, like, it was the time Cheerios were on the ground, and I'm this clean freak, and I had to overcome all of that stuff, because I'm like, do I rehydrate those, or do I go find more milk? Like, I just think it was that bad. I would fold clothes, and they would dump out the clothes. And then I would go to get mad at them, I'd see them in their little, what do you call it, clothes bins, going down my hall, pretending they were touching the stones, and God's hand came, and they're going to float across the sea. So I was like, I can't get mad at these kids. But so that time of life, and I prayed, and a lady knocked on my door and said, I came, do you need something? I said, oh no, I got it all together, I'm good, just fine. And then I prayed again, she knocks again, and then God's like, well, if you're going to ask for help, you better accept it. So I had to not look like I was all put together and just fell apart. I'm like, thank you. And she took the kids, and I went and slept at some other lady's house with quiet music on for like 7 hours. I didn't come out of it. And so Jeremy knocks on the door, and I knew, like, okay, this is him again. I prayed, and this person shows up. So this man knocks on the door. But what do you think I saw a year and a half ago? Right?
So, my past is colorful. But when I knocked on Amy's door, it was after work, and after work I drank beer. So I guess the thing that she saw was somebody probably half drunk. I don't think she's very familiar with beer.
No, not at all. And when I pray, who would expect, I live around bishops, stake presidents, who would expect a drunk guy to knock, to open, like, come to my door? And there's these tattoos and this hard-looking guy. And he didn't just say hi, he had a few swear words to go with it. And I was like, really, God?
Well, you had to know Amy at the time to understand where the swear words came. They've mellowed out a little bit now.
No, yes, they really have. But he knocks on my door, and so I said, okay, I guess there's a reason. And we've later found out. So Jeremy came from a place at the time, you want to say where you were at that time? And then how, we just want to show you how these books have helped someone. Do you know what I mean? And
well, let's see, I guess I was raised in the LDS church. I don't know what y'all's affiliation is. I guess it doesn't really matter. But I was raised in the LDS church until when I was a kid, probably until about I was 12 or 13, 14. My mom and dad got divorced, and I ran hard and fast. So my dad started drinking. My mom stayed good in the church, and of course I went with my dad. I always felt like as a kid that I had some big things to accomplish, and I had to talk in front of a lot of people, and I just ignored that as much as I could. In fact, I wanted to ignore that as much as I could, and I did. So for about 30 or 35 years, I lived a rough life. I did. I've been married 4 times. I've been to jail a time or 2. I've overcome drug addictions. I've overcome alcohol abuse. I've overcome pornography, masturbation. There's nothing, it seems like there's no pool that if you said you'll never get out of that one that I haven't jumped in just to prove them wrong. But through my recovery, I say my recovery, but I found Christ at a real low point in my life. And as I was coming back, maybe about a year into it is when Amy and I met. So I wasn't quite there. I'm still not quite there where I'll be coming. You know, they say it doesn't matter what you were. What matters is what you are after you meet Him, and what you have to look forward to. And that's kind of the journey or the path that I'm on. But as I was coming back, meeting Amy had just met Dennis. In fact, the day I met her, she had just got done with her first appointment with him. And we talked about him. And Dennis is who wrote these books. And the Adversary or Resistance. Now, my mother is a friend of Amy's as well. I lived there with my mom on the farm in Franklin, or in Preston. But she's a healer, an energy healer as well. And I did a lot of work with her after I started believing in it. You know, at first I just told her she was crazy and to save her energy for something else, but she was making money doing it, so whatever, you know. But she helped me quite a bit. And as I met Amy, we talked about Dennis, and it was an incredible thing. And I was at a point in my life where any kind of light that I could get, I wanted, and I still am, to the point I kind of feel like a sponge. Like if I can have light from any source, I want it, and that's where I'm going to go, because I can't get enough. After you meet Christ personally, it kind of becomes one of those things where you can never have enough of what that feels like. So,
Can I just say that when I met him and I got to know who he was everything my young women leaders would warn me of. Like, do not hang out with dun 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 dun. He was a checklist of what not to associate with.
the reason they have a checklist.
But God has.
But I'm not proud of that. But if I can use that to benefit anyone, then it's worth living through it. So, you know, I got over my embarrassment about my life and what I had to go through, and I know now that if it benefits somebody, then it's worth it. So I need to talk about it whether I want to or not. So, but anyway, you can't overcome it, you can't come through it. But as I'm coming through that, we met Dennis, and so instantly, obviously, I made an appointment with him, and I had probably a month's worth of sessions with him. And then, of course, Amy and I have been to several of his trainings. Amy went through and graduated from his training, and I attended quite a few of them. But what I learned from him was invaluable to me. And what it taught me was how to find me, how to find my creator, my center, my being, and how to recognize the adversary and what to do about that. So I realized that those addictions I was facing, the alcoholism or the I wasn't good enough or my sins are way too grievous to be forgiven, or God, Christ, they don't have time for me. I mean, I had some pretty nasty conversations with God as I was going through my life, you know, from belief to non-belief. But I know that you can heal, and I know that He'll forgive that. And Dennis, or these books, helped me realize what Satan does, and that those thoughts, those feelings didn't come from me. They came because I opened the door to Satan and allowed him to come in and to influence me in that way. And it gets to the point where you can't even differentiate your own feelings from their feelings, from the spirits and the entities that are in you. So this is a valuable book. It's a valuable way of thinking, and I don't know if you're like me. You can take some light and let it grow, plant that seed, and see if it becomes a tree. And for me, it has. So at this point, any new healing technique or any information or light that we have, I mean, it seems like Amy and I are all over it almost every day. We are online or listening to stuff.
And then we had an experience where I knew him before, and we're looking for his future wife somewhere. Anyway, just a dearest friend.
Not very hard.
But a year after he knocked on my door that way, I was in another way of pain, and I asked, "Can you give me a blessing?" So as he gave me the blessing, my mind went back to the year before, and how these techniques have just brought this amazing soul into being and into light, and how he's blessing so many people now with these techniques. So I just want you to know that I know there is good in all, and if we can just find those adversaries and just be able to command them out of our lives and our children's lives and those people we have stewardship over, and show this, that you just get this beautiful light being, and so quickly, like his whole life changed around. Like, you don't date somebody that this, well, we did, like I've watched, there's no blocks, right? Abundance, everything now.
Yeah,
From,
yeah.
I mean, we're talking from spiritual death to what he is now, and then from financial ruin, right, to what right now.
Well, your whole life, my whole life changed. Your whole life does change because
When you get rid of these.
You can either live in darkness or you can live in light. When you live in light, it changes from darkness. It's a 180-degree turn. I mean, even if you don't make that many changes in your conscious thought or in your whatever, when you choose to live in the light, it is just different. You're blessed that way. Also.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
I mean, I hope that was helpful to
You're
you, Jared. So
favored.
grateful he came.
Like Joseph was. Joseph was favored
Yeah.
when he did the right things, yeah.
Right. Every time we do the right thing, we are favored, and you feel that. That's really good. Talking about Joseph, when we went to Egypt, well, let's go into this. So we'll go through. The book right now is, well, I think it was Spiritual Mind Management last time. What did you guys get? The tools, emotional tools, right? Emotional skills and tools. So we had stopped on doing some, so just the very front, we'll go to that one on the book. And Jeremy, you can help me with this. We can do a little. So in our conscious outward observation learning choices out front, okay? And then you can go back and then there's imagination, there's memories, and there's emotions. And what we do in our life depends a lot on our emotions. Remember I had showed you guys before, we were first intelligent and light, and then we went to being born into the spiritual realm, and then we had families in that spiritual pre-existence, and then we were born into the physical realm, and then with the physical we had emotions. So we're going to use those emotions to propel us forward and benefit our light and intelligence, or Satan would have us use those emotions to destroy us and keep us in the physical and emotional and not know that we're any of these other, that we're light intelligent beings. And so with this, to try to keep ourselves out of the past emotions, memories, imaginations that are not good, that block us, that keep us from being, like Jeremy is now, the full person that we need to be, standing in your I am and your power and who you are, is just a really quick, we'll do a really quick example with it. So one thing that can show you how that your mind, you have to go back in and access things. So it's like you have control. When we get done here, you're going to have control of this. You're going to know I can choose my emotions, I can stop things that are coming, I can filter, and I can block. And that's kind of why Dennis did this book. He was full of anger, and he had to learn that anger wasn't him. Anger was Satan. And it was him claiming that I am anger. And remember the words I am. As soon as, well, let's do this first, and then I'll tell you about experience with my missionary as soon as I got back from Egypt. But, so everybody look at my hand. I want you to focus on my hand. And just don't look anywhere else. Just fully focus on my hand. See my hand. Keep your mind right here. Just keep your mind here. Now I want everyone to go tell me their first dog's name. Now stay focused. Stay focused on my hand. Tell me your first dog's name. Stay focused. Don't move your, don't unfocus from here. Did anybody, was it hard? Could you guys see in your mind how you wanted to scoot back in your mind and go to your memories? But you could, it was hard to stay focused, right? Mm-hmm. So you can control.
Never had a dog.
Okay, so let's do this. Look at my hand.
Easy for you.
Look at my hand. Okay, let's do this. Look at my hand. So what was your first address you ever lived in? Look, stay focused. Don't go back. Just stay focused on my hand. What's your first address that you ever lived at? You didn't have a first address?
Yeah, I did, but when you're focusing on that, you can't.
It's hard to, so
Yeah.
did you need, do you need, what's the experience? You need to go back, right? Do you feel that? Where it needs to go back and look somewhere and bring up a file?
My eyes literally couldn't, they were going to the side trying to like, where in my brain is that memory?
Right, because you're looking for it, right? So that shows us how we're separate. When we're front focused and outward observate in the moment, we're here and we're clear. But if we have imagination memories, so like you can look at people and they're not even there. They're back in their imagination, their memory, and they're stuck and there's fixations back there. A lot of kids now, we don't have to hypnotize them, we have to unhypnotize them. In hypnotherapy, sometimes the words, yes?
I was just going to say, what if it didn't go there? What if it was right?
And you just had it in your memory right there, you didn't feel it move back? Okay, we'll do another exercise and you can experience something then.
I could also say the same thing, like, I mean, if it's just right there, like,
It's memorized.
It's memorized.
hyper-focused on your hand and not
And it just
even-
came to your mind.
Like both times, just right
there.
What does that mean?
Okay, well, we'll do it. We'll do an opposite exercise. We'll have it, yes.
So as I find myself doing this, as you're talking, and before you did this exercise, there was a trigger, And so
Okay.
I went into a memory and then I lose what you're saying.
yes.
Because it's like a dateline going into a daydream. And that happens to me a lot.
Okay.
What is that? Is that,
There's just blocks and fixations that we need to be able to go back in. And the thing, well, and I'll read it in the Spiritual Mind Management book. Let's see if it's on this one.
because sometimes I'll be listening to a speaker and I miss things because there was a trigger and I go into, oh, this reminds me of this, and I'm thinking about that and then I lose it. It's weird.
Not that it's bad. Sometimes we need to go back in
But it's
and then it
like a
brings up
daydream.
something that we can work on.
Do we learn from, we can read this book from cover to cover 50 times. How do we know it's true?
Well, you can pray and,
Our heart, the witness from the Spirit.
Right.
Yeah.
The only way you can know truth is from the Spirit. So if you're open to that, and like you might be hypersensitive, I think you learn by the Spirit.
okay.
As you're listening to something, Amy and I have a tree. We talk about a tree in our mind, and then we hear new stuff that comes in. We hang on the tree. If it grows and fits together with something else later, that's great. You know, if it doesn't, then it just kind of falls off the tree and goes away. But as you're listening to a speaker, if you're in tune with that spiritual side and it takes you somewhere, maybe that's a key or a piece of fruit that's come off that tree that said, hey, this is where this fits.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're being taught by the Spirit instead of what's actually there. Maybe.
Because I get mad at myself.
That's a problem.
I know that's a problem. I get mad at
kidding. It's
myself
not a
because and then I go, oh, I lost it. I missed what they said, but it was important. I know it was important. I was getting something from it, but it gets frustrating.
Okay, well then we can clear some of that. We can allow it to go, and then you can stay where you want to stay with your mind. You control your mind.
Okay.
That's the thing, is it doesn't just take you on random avoidance things. You can stay where you're at and learn what you
Yeah.
want to learn. Like you can
Okay.
be able to choose that. So, okay, why don't you do?
Well, just another exercise to help you, like you ladies had a hard time differentiating the part of your mind that works in. One of the ways you can differentiate what part of your mind is the present and what part is the memory or the past is an exercise, and again, that I learned from Dennis. So I ask you some questions, and what I want you to do is nod the opposite of what it is. So if I say, is that a fireplace? And the answer is no, but I nod yes. So you say one thing and nod the other. So is the sky blue?
Yes.
That's hard.
Right, right. Are you wearing clothes?
Yes.
Say one thing and not the other. So now can you feel that part of your mind that you have to use to do that? That's the part that keeps you forward and conscious. And now you can feel a separation between your memory and the present.
Still no.
Right?
I didn't.
The different place.
My
It doesn't have
mind
to be
went
in the fact,
somewhere
but you have to go to a
else,
different place.
and I missed the exercise.
We can do it one more
Like
time.
before, I didn't have, it wasn't a definitive thought process.
Mm-hmm.
She asked me, I gave it to her, I was still focused on her palm. But when you asked me that,
Right.
my brain had to go, and
Yeah.
I have to differentiate, like,
So you
deny
could
what
feel
he's
the movement
saying.
that time.
Yeah, I felt the movement then.
So after a while doing it or practicing that, because sometimes I do too, I'll be reading and I'll realize that I've read 15 pages and I don't have a clue what I just read.
I've done that most of my life.
So I have to shift, but I can now shift because I'm just aware of that and I've practiced. I can now shift, okay, I need to get back in the right part of my mind and feel it moving back to my present, and then I can read it and it's fine. But
And in the present, we can create, we can be in the moment. Do you know what I mean? But if we have the emotions and the things from the past, imaginations going on, sometimes we can lose that lesson that we can learn, like you said, you know? So you could feel that time with what he did. So that's just kind of showing you that we have these imaginations, emotions, and what. So now we're going to go to where we can, let's see so this shows conscious outward observation, learning, and choice. The chart explains positions of our spirit mind, our intelligence, and the identification of where the intelligent becomes fixed or moves to for various processes of the mind. So I just wanted you guys to feel that movement so you know that it's there. Okay. And then the imagination can amplify any thought, generating stronger emotions. This chart shows the effect of, these are just some that are in the book. This chart shows the effect of the amplification of the imagination on accepted prominent belief systems, behavioral producing thoughts. Behaviors are produced from our emotions. As the imaginary amplification increases, so does the intensity of the emotion. The emotional content releases and collapses as the imagination is desensitized. So I just wanted to show you kind of how something can be amplified. And in the book, there's also ways to amplify. There's a skill to amplify and turn down and turn up these emotions in us so that we know we're in control. Satan would have us think we're not in control. Our emotions are in control. Our physical body's in control. No, once we cut the entities out, like we talked the last time, are aware of them and can cast them out and separate them from us. And then we realize that we're in control of our emotions, we're in control of our physical, and take that power over, then you create. Satan would have us be like I see it on a spectrum like this. And if you're making a choice and it's one that Satan would have you make, it leads you to actually depression, suicide, and that's his goal. Any way to destroy our soul, or us to destroy someone else's soul is his goal. But God would have us be in this place, creation. And just coming from Egypt, you see that. When it's God's true way, the way and power that we have to create and the things that we're able to do there's no limits. And so I'm just going to go the negative first and show you really quick. So amplification, if you're like, I am not good enough. So one of them would be discomfort, uneasy, attempting anything new. And then more amplification is anxious about new things, fears, the unknown, inadequacy. Great amplification, stressed about any new experience, reluctance, hesitation, almost to anxiety there. Greater amplification, discouraged, despondent, unwilling, rebellious, contentious. And greatest is despair, hopelessness, useless, stuck, and even to suicide. Can you see how that can amplify? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's an example. So when it is an emotion or a belief system that's stuck in there, I am not good enough, this could be the result. You can see where those come from.
And that's in the book?
And that's in the book.
Okay.
So here's the opportunity for our intelligence, our spirit, who we really are, to be in control. And isn't that why we're here, is to learn to control our physical, the nature, the body? I don't know, that's what I believe. So with this, the intelligence can move in various compartments in the spirit's mind. So as we're thinking, like you saw, we went back and we thought on those different levels. You have to go back and find it. Thoughts from the intelligence are electrical frequencies in the brain. Sometimes we believe the brain is what controls the body. No, the intelligence sends frequency to the brain, and then the brain sends those frequencies out to the body. So like I had said last time, if you worry, how does that maladaptively come to the body? Stomach ache, right? Goes down to the brain, creates this meridian, and they have ulcers, they have stomach ache. Worry creates that.
Stress for it,
Yeah, stress with that. So thoughts from then, the electrical frequencies in the brain. Electrical patterns in the brain are reflections of the intelligent self-generated thoughts or accepted thoughts from other sources. What you think is what you can become. So where do we go to the basis of the intelligent? Make sure the belief systems in that intelligent are belief systems that can help us ascend, go to creation, instead of what Satan would want to plug in there and take us down. And so,
Amy, what is
yes.
your definition of the intelligence?
Our being, our light, and who we were before we were
Okay.
born into the spirit world. So you can also use your imagination, your emotion. So once you learn who's trying to work on you and what they're trying to do and take you down, and you can stop that, and then you can change those emotions. You can use emotions, which people think sometimes they're bad. No, there is Christ-like emotions that can love, charity. There's a whole realm of emotions that can lift our frequency, that can raise us to a higher level. And so with that, when the intelligent crosses the critical, this line here, the belief system filter, is called the critical factor. Can you see that line that goes up and down? Mm-hmm. So on the outside of the mind is our conscious, and then you go into the subconscious, which was 85 to 90% of what we're dealing with. Our past, our memories, everything that we've ever done is stored in our cells. Every belief system, every experience, smell, all of that's there, and you can access that. Maybe we should talk about how we can access that. To go into the subconscious and clean it out and make sure that we can add in what we want to be running. 95% of us, our intelligence, instead of letting whatever is coming in. The way they can come in: intelligence, agency, choice, analytical, logical, responsibility, accountability. So things will happen to us, circumstances, what can happen, and we can decide. Like we talked with Robin that one time. Robin, you have a purple jacket or green hair. Where does that go?
Where do I go? It's like I check first, and I'm
You're
like, no.
Stupid. It doesn't even
Yeah.
go into the imagination, memories,
Right.
or emotion. It doesn't affect your emotion because it's not
True.
and you choose to bounce it out, right? So the bounce factor. is what we get. So we just like, somebody says something to us and we bounce it out. Like we choose how we're gonna react to what people say.
But a lot of this is subconscious from childhood or
Right.
something, right? That you absorbed and you thought it was true. Like these sarcasm with children or,
Right.
you know what I mean? They just absorb it, all of it.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
can I interrupt?
Yeah, no, it's
So,
yours.
so this is what we're trying to differentiate here. So you can take, when something comes at you like, I have purple hair, or you have purple hair, well, no, I don't. You know that's not true. It doesn't, what happens is, it hits that critical filter, that critical thought bounce filter, and it goes away. It goes off the left side of your brain. That's where we get rid of stuff, is on the left side of our brain. So instead of, another thing you can do is take that and hold on to it, and go back to what time on a Halloween when you were 8 years old that you had purple hair and you didn't get much candy and your friends made fun of that. And now you're still trapped in that cycle because, oh, that was a horrible feeling. And I remember what that felt like, and now I feel like that now again. It's never gone away. That's the difference between letting that bounce and letting it go into your imagination or your subconscious. Because a memory can take you back to a time, and then your imagination will amplify that to where you physically feel that again now, but it was 40 years ago, 30 years ago, you know. So that's where that bounce comes into play. Now, through hypnotherapy or
Right,
through
that's what I wanna talk about
a lot
next.
of different ways, you can access your subconscious mind
To do the
to
clearing
your
that we need to
imagination,
do.
your memories, and clear those things out so that it never becomes a problem again. So even if it does sink past, there's no imagination or memory there for you to harm you. So there's a lot of ways that you can clear that out. You can do a lot of work. But this is just basically describing that filter, that you have the ability in the part of your mind that we just taught you how to use or differentiate to say, no, that I'm not going to allow that through there, and just go on with your day.
And empower you. And then when you realize what's coming at you, what circumstance or what voice is talking to you, you know I'm not letting that in. You know, like we talked last time.
Mm-hmm.
You might have stories, imaginations, and emotions stored behind I am stupid, I'm no good from the time you're little. Like my mom told me this, or I actually ended up doing it was so fascinating in Egypt on the Nile River, a session out on the front on the second level, her and I, and how that came about was she had 10 years earlier gotten a necklace, and they said it had her name on it, and she says, it's not my name. Like they told her it's not your name, so she went to get another one and it didn't match. She's like, that's not my name. No, that's not your name. You've been wearing somebody else's name for 10 years. And so this person comes to me and said, I have some for you. And she gave me this necklace because it was my name. And then when she handed it to me, this is just like, we're going to talk about this too, is that I know you guys with the choice and being empowered, you also have spiritual gifts. Every single one of you in here has a spiritual gift. And this is one that I've just tried to improve on. And I think it happened because I've lost close family members. And I knew what it felt like around them when they were alive. And so when they're on the other side and they're there, I could still feel it. And then I started to like hear things, and then I was like, that's not me, I'm not that smart, and for years now have just tuned into this part. Well, the necklace came to me, and then I was told you need to do a session for her in trade for this necklace that she just gifted you. And then I was like, okay, and then I asked her and she was open. I go, can I have stewardship and permission? So she said yes. And so I just said, okay, when the time's right, it'll happen. And I left, and then this little lady was like, you need to go help my granddaughter. I didn't know who she was, but I could feel this grandmotherly
The other
thing
side of the veil.
from the other side of the veil. And I could sense her by her, and I could sense that she even had her buy that 10 years ago wrong, that she knew that she would meet me someday and we would clear this work. And then I was like, whoa, this is a big deal. This is a responsibility. With the gifts that I have, I need to step up and be able to do what this grandma knows that I can do for her granddaughter. And so she was open, it worked out, and I just like, in the fear of being called crazy, weird, like might never see her again, whatever, I said, I think we're supposed to do a session, this little lady next to you, she's got dark hair, she's like this, she just keeps saying that we need to do this work, and so she's like, okay, let's go, and she's thinking, oh, you're weird. So, but we go down, and I told her a little bit more about the lady, and as I was doing, and the thing is, I don't like to tell them what I'm seeing, I like them to see it for themselves. But with this one, it was like, I didn't do that necklace thing for nothing. Let's get this done. And so we go down, and we're down, coming down the Nile River, and looking out the front, and she goes into a state of relaxation. So we get her to a place of relaxation, which then accesses the subconscious mind. And that's the benefit of hypnosis, is there's a way that you can take people to that sleep state, that subconscious state. Or you can meditate, or you can breathe deep. Breathing's a huge way. Like, there's a way you can get yourself into self-hypnosis so you can go in and look at what's there. And so going down, and then I had her bring up the person, the age, not me seeing it, but her. She brings it up, and then at that age she felt, she had this huge feeling and emotion, and she's felt it her whole life. Although she's been around people, been loved, been adored, she felt alone, she felt isolated, she felt these feelings. And Satan at the age of 3 wanted her to feel like that. Wanted her to feel disconnected from everybody. So when we found out where the entity was, she found it in her body, she's able to get rid of it, and we did that process last time, be able to find where that dark block is. And as it left, her grandmother did, done. Like, you got it. That's what I needed you to do. I needed her to be able to get rid of that. I needed her to feel me and to feel connected to me and feel connected for what's to come, because she has gifts that she needed to feel connected to those that love her. And sorry, I just love seeing people's divinity when I do the work, as I've witnessed Jeremy's, even with the mask he had on of tattoos and drinking and all that he chose, or that Satan helped him choose, huh?
I don't have a lot of tattoos.
I know, just in here. My grandson loves his tattoo, and he wants one. Anyway, she and I did the work, and then the mother gifted her, or the grandmother gifted her some gold thread to sew up where she felt broken in her heart. And I watched this. We could visually, through our imagination, which is a powerful tool, right? We were able to imagine the healing through her body. So the human body's able, our spirits, our intelligence are able to go back to a point and a place in time where Satan did an unbelief, made us believe something, and we can go back and we can reframe that. We can change that. No other, like, we are so blessed as human beings, as in our spirits and our intelligence, is to be able to go back and reframe that time. So as the grandma did what she did, and I expressed, some people I don't, but to her I expressed, this is what your grandma's doing. She's like, oh, that is my grandma. I thought you were crazy. And I said, well, this is what I'm feeling. She's saying, and she's like, that's totally my grandma's personality. I like her grandma. She's kind of fun. Anyway, so she was just instantly healed, and I'm like, wait, there's a gift for you. And it was this thread. The grandma wanted her to take it and use it on her family and her grandkids. And I was like, was your grandma a sewer? And she's like, I don't know. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm just telling you what comes up. I don't know. Anyway, so I don't know. So later on that day, after we finished, and you could see a literal lightness come to the person. Their spirit, their countenance changes. You see them lose weight. Like, just you feel the lifting of it. Have you experienced that with the work that you've had on you? We feel light even
on a cellular level.
On a cellular level.
Your bodies were created, I mean, every organ but your heart reproduces itself in X amount of days. Like, for instance, your eyes, you have a brand new eye every 2 days. All of the cells completely 100% reproduce themselves. So you say, well, how can somebody have cataracts? They've had them for 10 years. Well, your cells have a memory, you know.
Yeah.
And they pass that memory on to the new cells and on to the new cells, on to the new cells. So what Amy's trying to say is, when you find yourself, or you go down through hypnosis or meditation, and you find the core of who you are, your creation, you can use that to correct emotional imbalances. You can use it to correct a cellular memory. You can use it to rebuild yourself in every way, spiritually and physically.
I say this to Jeremy all the time, but I'm in awe of him. I'm like, really? I have cousins that did math that many years, and they're just like, oh. But can you believe how God has saved this guy's brain and his intelligence? Like, he's just, to me, fascinating to see that his work. Just like, yeah, when he talks, sometimes I'm just like, I just adore.
Okay, so with what you just said, I won't need reader glasses if I can use my mind power to change the way my eye cells are reproduced every 2 days.
That's
correct. I can put the program, for lack of a better word, into my eye cells and have a recreate the perfect whole and complete cell, not the one that's decaying and becoming old.
Degenerative,
Ta-da.
correct.
I like it.
Correct.
So,
Okay.
is that fascinating?
Yeah.
It's beautiful, huh? And is that not a God thing he would do for his daughters and for us? And do you know what it says in the scriptures? What it really takes to do that is just belief. We have to just get rid of our unbelief. And there's
So-
plenty of scriptures about that.
The heart doesn't create, like other eyes and its
Organs.
organ.
The heart
but like,
doesn't-
except for the
Can I tell you something about the heart? This was before I learned anything of Dennis's book, so this is not on Dennis's head or anything. He isn't gonna come back
We have
and
a theory.
haunt me. But he is my friend, so I love Dennis. But the heart, what's your theory? I just was gonna tell 2 experiences of sessions.
So your heart, so this is just a theory, okay? I don't have
This is a
any
Jeremy thing.
doctrinal proof. I don't have spiritual knowledge. I have thought about this, pondered on it, and I've got spiritual confirmation that, that it feels right, it feels good, but you do the same. Don't take my word for it. But, so Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, right? Because everybody believes there's Adam and Eve. Okay, good. So Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, they were perfect beings, and they were perfected, and they were not mortal at this point, right? And they partook of the tree of life, then they became mortal. They became in a state where they could die, whereas before they were in a state where they could not die. When our spirits, or when our physical bodies are resurrected, I believe that resurrection, what's going to happen in that resurrection is our heart will then pump pure light or pure spirit, as opposed to the blood that it has now. So I think when Adam and Eve fell, what was replaced in them was a heart that pumped physical blood, as opposed to pure spirit. So I think that's why the heart doesn't recreate itself.
That's a practical
Can I just
element.
say,
That's just my theory.
There's some evidence still
There's
too
some
coming
doctrine
with
about
that,
it.
yeah. Sorry.
my son, that you'll get to meet
Yes,
tonight,
I'm so
we were
excited.
doing some scripture study the other night, and he's pointed out, he says, have you noticed how in the scriptures it always says that God and Christ have a body of flesh and bones, not blood?
Yeah.
And you need a heart for blood, right?
And there's another organ that actually will do light, but that's deep. That's really deep. So yes.
What
She's
I
deep.
also heard you say within the eyes and what you just added to about resurrection is that is what I'm choosing to do within my body is to resurrect the cells of its highest and purest part to be recreated in my eyes so it doesn't degenerate because of the time of the world and the world I live in. So it is a form of resurrection because I'm choosing to resurrect my eyesight.
So I think innately we are given that power. The light of Christ. Christ created this mortal body. Is His responsibility, and so within us, our life, breath within us is His light, or the light of Christ. And He has given our bodies the ability to heal. I mean, you can cut your hand and you can watch it heal. You can do that with every organ in your body, including your eyes. It will heal over time. It will reproduce itself. And obviously, we've talked about it'll do it the same way over and over if you don't interrupt that memory somehow. But through that light of Christ, through hypnosis, or however it is you find your core, your center, your spirit, when you make a physical conscious connection with your subconscious or your spirit on your very most molecular level at the light of Christ, it's always Christ that you find. He has given you that power to restore your body. He's given your body that power. You don't even have to think about it, it does it. But He has given you that power to restore those organs or those things.
I love it. All right, so 2 examples, like that's really good with the heart. We could just stop at that. But I saw a broken woman whose son was killed in an accident, and 2 boys were mutilated, and went to the temple. And in the temple experience, going in the valley, I saw the person, and their heart was just all over the. Like I said, I'm going to help this person. I went to pick up the pieces of the heart because the heart was shattered from these experiences. And as I went to pick up the pieces, Christ stopped me and said, no, you don't have to pick those up. I'm like, no, she needs a heart. She's like broken. I need to help her. And He stopped me and He took His heart and He put it into her. And I said, you can't do that. You can't live without a heart. You can't give your heart. And He said, oh, are you kidding? I've given my whole body for my daughters and for every one of us. He's given everything. What's a heart? He's just like, what's a heart? So I was like, okay, there you go. And I watched that person be able to come out of that and just felt like she had a new heart. And she didn't even know the experience was going on. And the reason I did it is because it was my own mom. It was my brothers that were killed. And my brothers that were mutilated. But I watched the healing happen miraculously. So I learned there's a healing on a physical level, protons and neutrons, and we can access that healing like it's given us. With what belief we have, we can access the level of healing, right? So I'm like, okay, so I witnessed miraculous instant healing. That's when the protons and neutrons are broken down to quarks, and then the quarks, Richard G. Scott said in October 2011, will eventually be broken down to a smaller particle. I happened to be going to quantum science, integrated medicine in Hawaii at the time, went back, and there was professors from Russia, India, everywhere across the world, and the guy broke down the quarks to subtle energy. And he's like, wait a minute, they don't obey the laws of this physical world that we're in. And then they said there must be a parent world. And I was like, oh yeah, and they're like, how do you know this? I go, I went to primary. They're like, will you be on our panel at the end with all these guys that have all these degrees? Like, oh, okay, I'll be on your panel, whatever.
Is that the God particle they refer to now then?
With that subtle energy? No, that's a little bit different. But I'm just saying that you can, like he was saying, our body can regenerate and heal, but you can access the subtle energy healing and know that in there is miraculous instant healing. Do you know what I mean? You can choose whatever level you want, but there is another level you can understand and heal at. And the thing is not about you healing, it's about you understanding it so that the world can heal from this space. So, do you feel confirmed on that? So, okay, I don't know if this is there anything? Any questions?
It's hard to replace with that pure light, like for me, because I've got a big skeptic in there all the time, right?
Right.
Big skeptic guard.
Where does
Pass
that
that
come
one
from?
out.
My skeptic, I think my subconscious. Something.
Right.
Who would put that in? Did you read the Protocols of Adversarial Resistance?
I did read that.
So where do you think that would come from?
So you
Just
just
a simple
a
answer.
lie, Satan.
Yeah.
From Satan.
The great deceiver.
The father of lies.
Well, this is the thing we
so
learned
now-
You
about
were
her.
tricked as a kid or whatever.
No, you were tricked early.
Yeah.
Like even in the brick systems, he did not want you to come down and share intelligence. He was working on you, trying to bind you before you even came to Earth.
So that's why, I mean, there's a lot of different belief systems down here. And you're trying to
Right.
find the one that has the truth and light, right? And people believe lots of different things.
Right.
I mean, you see that. So as you hang things on your tree, like, well, that maybe, right? Then how do you test it? Where do you go to test it?
Amy and I do it. I have some different backboards that I play. I mean, my mother again is a lot like we are as far as the spiritual stuff goes.
You go inside and you clear out Satan, and then the truth just exposes itself.
So
Okay.
really what you need to
he
know
does.
is that when you meet that skeptic, you have the light of Christ in you, and Christ controls this mortal realm. So with your power and ability and knowledge of Christ, you can demand that go, and it has to obey you.
But you're not even aware, right? You're saying I'm running on the conscious level. I don't even know what's going on subconsciously.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is how you can tell. Like, this my son called after he got home from Egypt. Well, I need to go to spiritual gifts really fast. I don't know our time frame, but we've talked about these
We've got
processes.
an hour or more.
Okay, so spiritual gifts, let me see what comes up in this one. I might not keep it on this one. Okay, well, this is it. And then I'll tell about my son. Change the blocks inside of us are subconscious by wrapping emotions around action to get new results. So if you want to change something that's happening in your life, right, you got to wrap a new emotion around it. So using the emotions like blocking the negative and pre-choosing a positive emotion. So sometimes the belief system that I witnessed when we went to Egypt is right. I don't know. I think I'll get to your answer.
Yeah, no, keep going.
But do you have another comment before we go? I just felt like you had something maybe.
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure it out because I'm thinking shame probably comes with it, right?
Right.
Because if you're little and you're tricked and then they say...
Shame you.
You shame because you believe something and they're showing you that can't be, so...
So
you're
then
gonna
shame creates the emotion that drives it
Yeah,
in
that's what
and
I'm
makes
thinking.
it solid in the subconscious. That's
Yeah.
a total blocker.
That
So that's one.
presents
We got to go to the
rejection.
place of shame. And how you can find that is your body will react. Like you'll feel abreactions. When stuff happens, you can, like a lady came in and the hair on her neck stood up. When I was sitting by her and the guy came in the room, I was like, there's something going on here. even if she didn't know. So if you go into the subconscious, she was molested by that guy when she was 3 years old. And her body knew, and the hair stood up on her neck. And he'd blessed over 360 kids. And you don't know, but you can see the evidence of it in little ab reactions. So some of his grandkids...
Little ab, like your abdomen?
Your stomach can queasy, the hair on your neck can stand up,
Okay.
your body can do reactions. And it's
Okay.
just like, oh, what's the twitter in the eye? This guy's hand would just start shaking.
There are some times when it's gone back to the point where they didn't even have a physical memory of it.
Yeah, it's just some
But it
reaction.
has been able to come up and come out, you know. It's something that had been stopping them for a long time, like their weight or a disease or something like that
Was
they've been
some-
dealing with their
yeah.
whole life that was an emotional block that they didn't even have a memory of, so.
Or abuse, and
Yeah,
they
that-
blocked it out through their conscious, like not to remember it. Do you guys, does it kind of make sense?
I don't know if this answers your question, but growing up in the LDS faith, and I'm active now, I was always taught like the belief system lived within this little square. Like this is what we believe, and everything we believe fits nicely into this box. And everything outside of that box, we discredit and we don't look at, because this is, you know, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, like this is what you believe. And when I went to the temple and heard all truths are circumscribed into one great whole, my spirit went, yes, I found my home. And that's what solidified my faith. And I was sitting around a group of ladies, many who have left the LDS faith, because they too believe that their truth has to exist in this little box. And it's like, you know, the spirit is the greatest teacher, but when people say things to me like, do you believe this? Or as you're talking, like the spirit testifies. Like we know innately, like we are eternal beings having an earthly experience. We innately know the truth. So wherever it comes from, you know, you ask the spirit to testify the truth of it to you. So
But mine would be the reverse of that, where I'm not usually in the box. So I would see things and say, that's true. And then other people would say, no, that's not. Do you know what I mean? But it was like, that's what it felt like to me.
You were shamed and put back into
back in the box. But
That
you're
was
seeing
my
things
life.
outside.
That was my life.
and you believe them and you let them take that from you.
Well, she didn't know she had a choice. She was
Right,
just a
yeah.
young,
Yes,
just a young
just a
child.
little.
And your whole being goes to safety, protection. You know, whatever you need to get through that moment of that 2-year-old, that 3-year-old, that 4-year-old, whatever belief helps you survive.
Or authority, yeah. Whatever
Or
the
authority.
authority that said.
Yeah.
The purpose of that intention that I showed you earlier is to
Yes.
get out of that
Get out,
self-protection.
yes.
That we think is keeping us safe and avoiding
Yeah.
pain and suffering and all that, but it's not.
And I'll talk about that in the next one. So, but I wanted to bring up in Egypt, was there any stone too big for them to move? Did you guys see the biggest? Like, what was it in the museum, the outdoor museum, the natural museum, like that,
I
They
don't
did
know, they're like
everywhere.
40, 100 tons. I mean, how would they move that? This,
Right.
Like, yeah, the whole pyramid is 3 million, you know, multi-ton things. And
I-
they can't, and with corridors that are cut so little that go through the blocks that they can't, it's like, okay, the engineering that took to not only build the outside, which you look at a pile of rocks, but the interior corridors and tiny
And we crawled through
that
them.
align to stars that only are there at a certain month. Right? There's
So,
something else going on.
If that doesn't take you outside of your little box, just like the question of how, you know what I mean, what your belief system is, just knowing certain things on earth have happened.
There were some ancient manuscripts that some LDS people, Ben and Chase Kimball did, that talked about that they had these other technologies, like in Peru and all these different places where
Yeah.
they use sound
Oh, Peru.
and different things to move things.
Yes,
in
yes.
ways
So is
that
there,
we
Light-
can't
I
even
just
do
want to
in
ask, are
engineering.
we, after going, are we living below our means of power?
Our privilege.
Our privileges and our powers and our means. So that's what I would love to just have come out of this room, is like knowing that we are, and then what do we do to get to that point where we know why we're here, what we're doing, and what we need to do, and what power we have within us that's there. He didn't send us down without the ability. It's there. It's just getting out of that square box and knowing who we are, not caring what anybody else thinks, not
That's
following
like
the God of
nuclear
other
power
people's
you're talking
opinion.
about. If you're able to get rid of that dust or this earthly darkness off
Right.
of you,
Yes.
then you would have like fusion power, right?
Right.
Within yourself.
Did they do it in Egypt?
Yeah, but I don't know how.
Well, we do. We can know how. She doesn't know how to say yet.
Huh? Yes.
There we go.
Okay.
They did,
Okay.
they did it and lost it.
No, it's still there. we can access it.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think Bruce Porter explained it perfectly when he says what we're living in is spiritual entropy. So you can see some of these ancients and they have things that we don't understand. And we think we're so technologically advanced today, but the technology we have tends to lean more to the darkness in the world. So this entropy has taken all of us to the point where they're really trying to cram us into this little tiny box, all of us. And what you are trying to teach is step out of that box to try and reverse this entropy so that we can connect with what the ancients had,
Right.
but we're told they didn't even have.
Right. And you don't, until you go back and you walk in one of those tombs that are just opened, you're just like, I was in above a Holy of Holies in a temple, and you go up a spiral staircase, and I come out in a room on top of anyway, there's a female side and male side, and then you walk into this room, and I cannot tell you the power. I can't even explain what I witnessed in there.
That was at the Dendera.
You went, she was there, I have pictures of her, and we were all there, but just in that room. Did you go up into that room? Mm-hmm. And then the power of a woman, Isis, and the first temple we went to was her temple, wasn't it? The first,
Yes.
the one.
Philae.
Let me look. But I just want to say, nothing takes too long in their life if it's for your ascension. Like, they were patient. The patience it was taking for them to know they would ascend in the next life, or possibly some that we saw in the walls in this life ascended. But it's no task is too hard. And the examples of Enoch, Moses, Joseph, and I think if the things are written, or they'll come out of the women, the examples of what the women, the miracles, and
That's
way
what
they
was
ascended.
taken away. That's the part that is the powerhouse that put back together with the masculine. That's what Satan's done. He's just destroyed it. That's the mysteries
So-
that totally
So
get blocked
tying
out.
it all back in, sorry, are you done?
No, but it's
Tying it all
true.
back
This is what
into-
we felt.
Tying it all back into your little box of belief. Now let's apply that to every religion, and let's apply that to every non-religion. There's a school of thought in this world that Satan has created in that box, right? And that is what? That man hold power. That the male holds power, right? That's what he wants you to believe. That's not true in any way, shape, or form. But by believing that, we eliminate women's power.
How they feed the ego that thinks it has power.
Say-
Because
right.
it's not the real person.
Right, and women
This is
buy
why I
into
brought
that over generations. The lies of the fathers, or the traditions of the fathers, are the same as the traditions of the mothers handed down.
Absolutely.
Amy learned how to be a victim from her mother. I learned how to be a victim from my father. But by
Or to
him,
victimize.
or to victimize. Hey.
I'm just kidding.
Anyway, but that's handed down. So by him doing that and blocking that, he's eliminated the power that will bind him, which is the power that comes from the women on this earth, or the female presence, the female priesthood in this earth.
Are you seeing that now more than ever with things that are going on in the world? Because I look around,
Absolutely.
I am stomping my feet, and my mom and I am like, the men in our lives are failing us. Like, why is it the women?
It's-
Why is it the women
Wait.
that are taking charge?
Wait. The women, we failed
It's
ourselves.
because
We
you are
did
not
fellas.
taking hold of the power that is
see what
ordained
this
to you.
But I've always known that since I was little, I told my family, like, Dad, it's a bishop in the state, you're not gonna like this, but hear me out. Like, as a teenager, God created man, and he looked at that and said, yeah, hold my drink, I can do better. And created women. And like, I have never felt less than. I have never felt like man holds the power. And I don't mean to be rude or unkind, but it's kind of like, oh, here you go. Here's the priesthood for you. Work on that, okay? And I'm going to do all of this with women. The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. Like, we are so empowered and so amazing.
Right.
I've never felt like men hold the power. Like, we are to help each other, and God gave
Correct.
men certain strengths and abilities, but women is where it's at.
We didn't want to open this up, but we've talked about this.
Sorry, Jeremy.
I guess Jeremy just opened us up.
No, but when men hold their power in a godlike way, there is nothing more. That is,
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
Right, it's beautiful.
Let's correct that. Let's correct that though, just a little bit. Men do not hold power. Women,
Okay, stop. I gotta stop before this. Jeremy got the priesthood, well, didn't get it. He got the privilege
I was
of
ordained to the
to the priesthood. After, it's the journey I've watched him take. And he's like, what is it? He prayed, he was given revelation, and he shared it with me. And I was like, oh, that is beautiful. I want to tell you, that's what I saw in Egypt, is what God told him it was. Go ahead.
So you had a question real quick.
Well, I work with scholars, and I've learned so much from them. And most of them are constitutional attorneys, and they really, we fight for the Constitution. That's our whole thing. But one of the best lessons that I learned was on the priesthood, where people believe, and I've got friends that have actually fallen away from the LDS church because they believe that the men are the head of the household. I have a really good friend that's a priesthood holder, that him and his wife always fight because he tells her, well, I'm the head of the household. What the priesthood actually represents is that men are the head as far as the brain, the law, the order. Women are the equity. So the heart and the brain can't work without each other. The man was never intended to have, by scripture, by these scholars, and they can give you all the references, and they were never intended to hold, like you said, the priesthood, but they are to represent the law and the order, and the women represent the heart. And that's why I've got a dear sister here saying, oh, I'm not, it's because that we are actually the emotion and the love and the charity of the priesthood that represents the law, that cannot maintain. And one other thing, back in, and I can't remember, it was a Sadducees, I can't remember which group it was. There were several different groups in the Bible that when they had the judges were priesthood holders, or they were the representatives of the law, but the women actually made the sentencing. They actually decided what happened.
Yeah, they do that in a lot of
of
cultures. In the Hawaiian culture, they take everything to. I was adopted in the Hawaiian culture because of doing work. Then you can talk about God. You can talk about all these things without getting, your license taken away if you're adopted into a Hawaiian culture. So when I was back there, I was adopted, and they believe that everything be taken to the council of the women before it's.
And don't get me wrong, I think men are amazing. I love men.
I don't feel picked on.
He doesn't feel picked on.
I do, I love men. I think they're amazing, but I think they have their place. And I think my husband is head of household, and I honor his place. And he does a great job, but we work together. But I don't, and I've never felt
and that's amazing.
less than, or we're in competition. I think they work so beautifully together if people will put their ego and put their pride aside and be in their power, be in their greatness, the way that God created us.
That's so beautiful. Okay.
That's great. Satan has definitely created that box. He has created that head of household, that men are the head. He has created that because he's afraid of you. Because he knows he knows that it's your power that can bind. Your power that will bind him through the millennium. Without the power of women and their priesthood authority, Satan will not be bound on this earth. So, I mean, we just listened to a talk today, but I've heard over and over and over, Elohim is a plural, right? God is a plural. One person individually cannot achieve godhood. It has to be achieved as a pair, a man and a woman, right? So, it's important for you, for women in general, to start utilizing the priesthood power that they are endowed with. They are not elevated to a position in the church, which they're the keys to the church, to managing the church. They're given to men and obviously dictated through the prophets and apostles. But that dictation or management of the church has nothing to do with God's power and what we can do with that here on this earth. All that does is manage an entity. So we get that confused a lot. Men and women really get that confused. The priesthood power is not the management of the church. The priesthood power is endowed to you the same as it is to me.
And can I share a little bit of what he shared with me? So when he prayed in his innocence, and what I love about Jeremy is he'll learn something in Revelation, light will share it, put it on the tree, and he'll like, let's look at this. And so when he prayed in his innocence and then the Spirit confirmed it, this is what Jeremy always does. And I think this is the key to how he's gone from a year ago to now. Look what he's sharing, that he knows. His knowledge and light has just by bounds and leaps. This is what Jeremy does, right? He takes my hand.
I don't know.
Yeah, this is what he does. We take hands, and he's like, let's thank God that we received that answer. And then he prays the most innocent prayer of gratitude to Heavenly Father.
And I'm so grateful for the friendship I've had with him over the last years. I really, in my box, would have shut that door and told him to go back to hell wherever he came from. And, you're not going to influence my kids, my family. I've created this space in my life with no bad music, no swearing, no. And this is it. And he's like, oh, everybody swears. I remember I cried. I'm like, Jeremy, my kids don't swear. And then you met Justin.
They do now.
Anyway, so the gratitude is a huge key to getting that next level of light and intelligence. And that's proof right there.
Two things. One is I'm looking at this, so the thought is that Enoch had this knowledge. Adam taught Enoch.
Yes.
Enoch kept that knowledge, but when it had been shared with the Watchers and it had been distorted and caused people to kill and murder and maim, then they said, wait a second, we're going to keep it only for those that we saw through the temple, that they would go through the process of getting clean. The last sacrifice in the temple is the man would bend down and he would have on his hand the little statue of Mot. And that was, it's a female and it's like of truth and light, saying, I am now clean. I can receive. Then she could make the determination whether or not she would accept him, right? But she's being represented as the goddess or the Heavenly Mother. So it was through this purity that he could be given knowledge and keys and connection then to God to do amazing things. This knowledge would be opened up and shared to him. So that's why that he could rule with his wife as Pharaoh, because now this full enlightenment is happening. So when you're saying, can we clear this up, does it also parallel with cleaning yourself up? Or does that, like, how do you see that happening? So for me, it seemed like, well, that seems like a lot of work. And like you said,
it can be subtle.
Some people did it in a lifetime. Others, their tombs were made as a temple. So that when they went through to the hereafter, they were also going through that process and then spiritually transitioning. So we saw temples above and temples below. It's really what we saw.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one of my curiosities is like, can we do this? Can it happen quickly?
We saw this, but I want to tell you one thing I experienced there was the temple within.
Yes, and that's
and I bring it wherever I go.
Yeah. Okay.
And I stand at my own veil and I say, am I good? Like I stand in my own mirror and I repeat those words like, do I need to offer some today? What can I do to be in your presence?
Okay, that's what. And then the other is to your argument, to what you were saying, like that the Marxist, the kind of the concept that feminism, that they could now, she would work out of the home, they can tax two people now, the husband and the wife. They can now indoctrinate the children because no woman is giving moral authority to that child anymore. So by doing this Marxist feminism that was included, it has taken the upset of women feeling like this is not right. The dogma of religion that have kept women in a certain place, then they get angry, and that just feeds Satan, right? That's like the
opposite, like going from here to here.
Yeah, it's just
out
a
of balance.
counterfeit.
Out of
like
balance.
he's such a good counterfeiter.
Yeah.
But that's why we have to go back to our own sense of temple and purity. And
it's about our character. It's about us changing. It's not about how people treat us or anybody else. This is about our own journeys. And then when we get to that point, we're connected with someone that is like at that same frequency. But you don't want to pre-connect early, like when you got all your stuff going.
Yeah.
Right?
I will share with you, it's Robert Schaefer or something like that, and he talks about like this concept that people would use fasting. They would use
all forms,
different forms to get into that connectedness.
And hypnotherapy, fasting, pondering, prayer, meditation. I mean, this is just a tool.
Yeah,
right?
some
the
people
dentist use.
running or
once
whatever.
Once you find that, no matter what it's through, once you find that, you can always quickly access it after that.
Okay.
If you learn how to get rid of the blocks and the entities.
But one of the amazing ways anciently was the pure love between a man and a woman.
Right.
Was this, it's also a beautiful meditative state. Right, that can be, but if you have one or the other that's dirty or not, hasn't worked on their own self, right, that joint consciousness can be
Yeah,
really difficult.
so-
So first yourself.
Yeah, so I've experienced that with Jeremy, like as a friend, even a friend love, not even like
Right.
lover love or lust
Yeah.
love, whatever the world puts out there. But and that's kind of out of the box. How come you're hanging out with a guy that drinks and has this, and you're a single mom with kids and teaching Relief Society, and like who are you know just the judgment from others. They don't know the purity of the relationship that we hold, and it is it when we're together, he's bound, huh? Like. He could get us alone.
He tries very hard to not get us, for us not to get together.
Oh yeah, like
But then once we are, there's no.
we can laugh.
There's
at
more
some of the-
power with masculine and feminine.
Yeah, we
Like you're
can.
saying, just
Yeah,
using your
and
power.
we can now go somewhere and fill portals, like Heavenly Mother asking for help, and we'll just look at each other like, "Did we just get that?" And it was
I
like, yeah.
created them, yeah. Just a comment, remember in the scriptures, I don't know what scripture it was, you can probably help me, but God says you hold light by degrees. The more light you hold, the more you grow to be able to hold, the more He'll give you. So it is as you receive light until you're to a point where you're full of light, no more darkness can exist inside. That would apply to, can it happen fast? It can only happen as fast as you allow yourself to receive light.
But I think his was a grateful heart. Like, and like, you just pray about every miracle in our life. And I'd be like, okay, we'll pray about that, Jeremy. Like, mocking kind of at first. Like, okay, you just served papers to my ex for me, thanks. He just came out, like, at an airport, caught him, served him. I'm like, you did what? Like, been trying to find him for a year. He got him. Anyway, but just like, okay, we gotta pray about this. I'm like, okay, we're gonna pray about this. And I have just witnessed the lesson he's taught me. Like, thinking that I have something to offer him. His innocent like heart has taught me a lot that way. So anyway, I think that's the light degrees that is acting.
He's mentioned something about the mother's portal.
The portal for mothers.
Expound what you were meaning.
Let's keep going then. Let's see what comes up. Maybe it's well, this is now going way back down to wrapping the presence, like spiritual gifts. Women need heard clearly, and are we open to accepting gifts that God has for us? Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see it. There's angels. We probably sense it. There's angels waiting to give you guys the gifts that you need to move forward. And we experience this, right? This happens. And are we open to it? Like, even, remember how I said we can go back and accept, like, healing and reframe a past? I've been to Machu Picchu. I've been to places, and I learned stuff in Egypt where, like, oh my gosh, did I miss spiritual gifts I was supposed to glean in that place that I went? I've visited the Mother Earth chakras, which I just over a month ago went, oh my gosh, I've been to all Mother Earth chakras. Mother Earth is an entity. She has chakras. She's like this. She has an amazing purpose in God's plan, and I've been able to go to her chakras, and I've taken different little tools. Remember, I went to shamanic training after. This one right here holds divine femininity, spiritual growth, and intuition, and that's been to all the chakras lately. Like, I went to Geyser Pyramid was the chakra, and we meditated, and I put them in the middle. And I just brought them as my little shaman pouch, medicine pouch, and there's different stories about each one in the pouch. There's frankincense, the oil, there's sage from Missouri that I have in here, and then a heart that I share with other hearts now around the world to help women ascend to who they, and men ascend to who they need to be.